Welcome to the CAP Online Platform Supervising Practitioner Training. Thank you so much for serving in this role. My name is Sadie Segov. I am a member of the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education's Educator Effectiveness team, and I'm going to be presenting this module today. During this session, I will provide a high-level overview of the CAP Online platform, outline resources you can turn to for additional information and support anytime, and walk through how to use the platform for each step in the CAP cycle. After the walkthrough, I will share some troubleshooting tips for common issues that users can run into when using the platform. We will start with an introduction to CAP, which is short for the Candidate Assessment of Performance. CAP creates an intentional bridge from preparation to practice by aligning expectations at preparation programs with the Massachusetts Educator Evaluation Framework for in-service educators. CAP is designed to support teacher candidates' growth as well as assess their ultimate readiness for the licensure role at the conclusion of their preparation experience. Successful completion of CAP is required to be considered ready to teach and complete an initial teacher licensure program. This is one of several mechanisms by which we ensure that new teachers enter classrooms prepared to make a positive impact for all students. For more information about CAP, please see the CAP introduction video for supervising practitioners, which can be found on the DESE website. The CAP Online platform is a virtual system for implementing this performance assessment in alignment with the expectations outlined in the CAP guidelines and CAP implementation handbook. It allows educator preparation programs to manage cycles from start to end and allows program supervisors, supervising practitioners, and teacher candidates to complete all required forms online. Use of the CAP Online platform is optional. If you are using the platform, it means that the educator preparation program where your teacher candidate is enrolled has elected to use this application to facilitate the CAP process. The CAP manager at this organization is prepared to train you and support you with use of the platform and should be your primary source of contact when you have questions. DESE has created a variety of resources to support successful implementation of the CAP process. The PST and CAP webpage includes a wide variety of resources, including guidelines, an implementation handbook, all required and optional CAP forms, quick reference guides on a range of topics, slides and recordings of prior webinars, and more. It also includes a link to the CAP Resources Hub, where we continue to add resources shared by preparation programs across the state. You can use the QR code or URL on this slide to access this webpage. There's also a webpage specific to the CAP Online platform, which focuses on the technical aspects of the system. It houses comprehensive user guides and quick reference guides for supervising practitioners, program supervisors, and teacher candidates, as well as answers to frequently asked questions that we update regularly. This page is a very useful resource when completing new actions in the platform or troubleshooting technical issues. You may find it helpful to bookmark this page so you can return to it easily throughout the CAP cycle. If you do need additional assistance navigating the CAP Online platform beyond these resources, please reach out directly to your educator preparation program's CAP manager. They will be able to either answer your question or have the ability to elevate it to DESE for additional support. The CAP manager, program supervisor, supervising practitioner, and teacher candidate all have unique roles, responsibilities, and capabilities within the CAP Online platform. This slide outlines the unique capabilities for each role. The CAP manager holds primary responsibility for training and supporting PSs, SPs, and TCs with both the components of the CAP cycle and technical use of the CAP Online platform. They can start and end CAP cycles, view progress for all cycles within the organization, open closed forms if further editing is needed, upload evidence, and add or change program supervisor and supervising practitioner assignments. The PS is able to do all of this for a subset of candidates assigned to them, as well as enter information into CAP forms for these candidates. As an SP, you can view progress, complete forms, and upload evidence for the specific candidates assigned to you. Your candidates can view their own progress, complete a subset of the forms, upload evidence, and view observation and assessment forms once they are submitted by both you and their program supervisor. I will now provide instructions to help you log in. The CAP Online platform is embedded within the Education Security Portal, but you will not be able to access it with your personal ELAR username and password. Once you are assigned to a candidate cycle within the platform, you will receive an automatic email with your CAP-specific username and instructions for how to log in. It is very important that you use this new username to access the platform. When you are ready to log in, follow the link on this slide. The first time you log in, you will need to take a few extra steps to create a password for your CAP account. First, select Forgot Password. Enter your email address that is associated with the CAP account and the new CAP-specific username. Then, check your emails and follow the directions to reset your password. Finally, log in using the new password and your CAP-specific username. Once logged in, you will see the CAP Online platform application in the homepage. If you have logged in with the correct credentials, you will see the name of the educator preparation program that your teacher candidate is enrolled in on the upper right-hand corner. Here, you can see it says Assumption University. If you do not see the educator preparation program name and do not see your teacher candidate cycle, it means that you have logged in with your personal ELAR credentials. You should log out and then log back in using your CAP-specific credentials. There are also a few overarching tips for navigating the platform. After logging in and clicking into the CAP Online platform application link, all users will be brought to the home page. The content of this page varies slightly by user. Candidates will see only their single cycle, while SPs and PSs will see all candidate cycles assigned to them. There are a variety of functions embedded into this homepage. These features are most helpful for CAP managers and program supervisors who work with many candidates at once and may need help searching for them. However, they may also be useful if you have been an SP for many years and have worked with multiple candidates over time, or if you're hosting multiple candidates within the same year. To filter by cycle status or CAP completion year, select your parameters from the drop-down menus and then click Submit. To sort any column alphabetically, click on the up-down arrows at the top right of each column header. To search for a specific candidate, supervisor, or program, type or paste text into the search box. To open an individual candidate's cycle, click on the row with their name on it. To exit an individual candidate cycle, click Home in the navigation bar. Once you enter an individual candidate cycle, the left-hand navigation bar will expand to show all cycle steps. This is how you and the program supervisor will access required forms, the evidence uploads page, and the correspondence history between members of the triad. At any time, you can click Home from the navigation menu to be brought to the main entry page. Before moving into a walkthrough of steps within the cycle, there are two additional things to know about the platform and how it functions. First, throughout the platform pages, required fields are noted in bold text with an asterisk. You can see an example on this page for the grade level of practicum students. In order to mark forms as complete, you must enter information for every required field. It is also very important to know that the platform does not autosave like a Google document. Content will be lost if windows are left open in the background and time out, or if they're closed before you hit the Save button. Save buttons should be used frequently when adding new information to forms and can often be found in the middle of pages, not just at the end, to prompt you to save. When entering a lot of information, such as when adding synthesized evidence or assessment feedback, we do advise that you draft content in another document that autosaves, and then paste it into the platform when finalized. Now we're ready to jump into some more detailed guidance. The CAP form is completed by the program supervisor and teacher candidate. As the supervising practitioner, you will have view-only access. The top of the form lists information about the candidate's practicum grade level and hours. followed by information about the assigned program supervisor and you as the assigned supervising practitioner. The bottom of the form provides the cycle status. Here you can see whether the cycle is open or closed, as well as whether any forms are still incomplete. If a form shows up as incomplete, this may be because it has not been started yet and is completely blank. It could also be because the triad thinks that a form is finished, but some required fields are still blank, or the complete button has not been selected. This section of the form is especially helpful as you near the end of the practicum and work to ensure that all aspects of the CAP cycle are ready. The rubric summary form and self-assessment form are both completed by the teacher candidate. The CAP manager, program supervisor, and supervising practitioner can view the content, but none can edit it. On the rubric summary, the teacher candidate will click through the 7 essential elements in the tabs at the very top of the page. Read proficiency descriptors below, which are different for each element, and then select a quality, scope, and consistency rating for each element. The teacher candidate must click complete at the end of the rubric to access the self-assessment. If the self-assessment cannot be edited, please advise the teacher candidate to return to the final page of the rubric and make this step. This is a small technical thing, but it often is the reason why cycles cannot progress or be closed. We had added a red banner of text with this reminder for teacher candidates in their view of the platform, but strongly encourage supervisors to make candidates understand to check the complete box. The teacher candidate is also responsible for completing the self-assessment form. On this page, they will review a summary of their rubric ratings, reflect on their current strengths and areas for growth, and draft a preliminary professional practice goal. When the teacher candidate is finished, you and the program supervisor can provide feedback at the bottom of the form. You will see the option to save if you feel that their work is complete, or return the form for edits if things must be changed. If the form is returned for edits, the teacher candidate will again need to check the complete box at the end of the rubric summary before being able to revise any text on the self-assessment. Next, the full triad will collaborate to complete the professional practice goal and implementation plan page. This form is unique as it is the only one where all 3 users enter information. First, the TC will finalize the professional practice goal. The text from their preliminary goal that was drafted during the self-assessment will automatically populate into this box. The candidate will have the opportunity to revise this text based on any input provided by you or the program supervisor. Then, both supervisors will collaborate together to complete the implementation plan based on the candidate's set goal. Finally, as the supervising practitioner, you will complete the measure of student learning and student feedback sections with input from the PS and teacher candidate. This step has always been required, but it did not used to be embedded into the platform. It was added during updates and is required to complete. It is important to note that this form is the plan for how this evidence will be collected and analyzed. Artifacts related to progression and accomplishment of the goal, as well as results and reflections on the measure of student learning and student feedback, should be uploaded as tagged evidence later in the cycle. Once all members of the triad have finished their sections, the PS must select complete at the bottom of the form. After clicking complete, the form will not be able to be edited. Next, we'll move on to the 3-way meetings page. The TC, PS, and SP can all edit the 3-way meetings page. To complete the CAP cycle, a date must be entered in each of the 3-way meetings. While the date fields are required, the note sections are entirely optional. The PS and SP share responsibility for conducting observations and completing the related form. For unannounced observations, the SP must observe the candidate. The PS's presence is optional. For announced observations, both the SP and PS must observe the candidate, and feedback must be calibrated. At the top of each form, there's a question about observers. If both the SP and PS conducted the observation, this is considered a joint observation. If only one supervisor conducted the observation, this is considered an individual observation. The PS will have the option of PS only, and the SP will see the option of SP only. The layout of each observation form changes based on who is completing it. If completing the form individually, you will see one open response box for each question. If completing the observation jointly, you will see 3 separate boxes for each question, one for the SP, one for the PS, and one titled Calibrated. You will be able to input information into the SP and calibrated boxes. Only the calibrated boxes are required and will automatically pre-populate into both the summative and formative assessment forms. The observation forms can sometimes be a bit finicky, and the tips below can prevent some common problems from occurring. First, avoid toggling between the individual and joint forms. Switching back and forth between the PS or SP only and joint modes is very likely to lead to data loss. To prevent this, connect with the program supervisor to decide who will complete each observation form in advance. For joint observations, only one supervisor should enter calibrated text. The calibrated text boxes reflect content from the last person who clicked save, so the person entering text in these boxes should also be the one to hit save. To avoid accidentally overwriting work, only one supervisor should take this role. Again, talk to the program supervisor to decide who will do this ahead of time. Supervisors must include observation evidence for each of the 3 required elements. These are listed at the top of each form and bolded with an asterisk in the synthesized evidence tables. Supervisors may include observation evidence for the optional elements if observed. However, other categories of evidence, such as student feedback or candidate artifacts, may be used to determine proficiency for these optional elements instead. While the paper observation forms include an optional space for active evidence collection, this box is not included in the CAP Online platform. We made this decision because the platform does not allow auto-saving, and we're worried that raw notes taken during an observation could unintentionally be lost. Supervisors should take these low inference notes in a separate document. Synthesized evidence is included in the platform. Supervisors should type or paste key evidence for each element into these boxes. As a reminder, any section that is bold and includes an asterisk is required. For example, on this slide, safe learning environment is a required element, so it must be included in the observation, while adjustments to practice is optional. Because this is an example from a joint form, only the calibrated evidence is required. Notes from each supervisor, again, are optional. The feedback section begins with space to document the candidate's current areas of strength and areas for growth. These should be targeted judgments about what is going well and what can still be improved. This page also includes space to add specific strategies, recommendations, or resources to reinforce or improve practice in these areas. This section is also now required. The information in this section of the form may be tied to individual elements or span multiple elements. Regardless of scope, this feedback should be timely, constructive, targeted, and actionable. You can see our high-quality feedback quick reference guide for more information on DESE's expectations. For candidates enrolled in early childhood, elementary, and moderate disabilities PK2 or PK8 programs, the early literacy look-fors will automatically be embedded at the top of announced observation 2. The form is embedded within the second announced observation, as it is recommended that the early literacy observation occurs towards the end of practicum when candidates are assuming full responsibility for an instruction during literacy blocks. While DESE recommends that this occurs as part of announced observation 2, there may be circumstances where a triad prefers or is required to complete the observation during announced observation 1. If this is the case, they should complete announced observation 2, including the early literacy form, first. Then complete announced observation 1 without the early literacy form second. The CAP Online platform does not prevent these forms from being completed out of order. When completing the announced observation form, supervisors with candidates in early literacy programs will automatically be prompted to take the following steps. At the top of the form, they will be prompted to select Look For grade band that aligns with the candidate's placement. For example, if your candidate is an elementary candidate placed in a first grade classroom, you should select the PK through 3 grade band. For an elementary candidate placed in a fourth grade classroom, you would instead select the 4 through 5 grade band. You will then be asked to add evidence of the early literacy look-fors in the notes section. Like the calibrated feedback boxes, only one supervisor should enter text into the look-fors boxes to avoid data loss. You'll notice that notes is bolded with an asterisk. Actually, this is being fixed in the platform. It is not on this slide, and that this field is required. Finally, you will incorporate what you noticed into the synthesized evidence for the 3 required focus elements and actionable feedback as relevant. It is absolutely crucial to know that the look-fors are required fields on the form that will not show up in the formative and summative assessment forms. Given this, it is important that you understand that early literacy feedback should be woven into the synthesized evidence and actionable feedback sections of the announced observation 2 form. The teacher candidate will only be able to view observation forms once supervisors select complete. This button appears at the bottom of the form once the required components are filled in. If conducting a joint observation, both you and the program supervisor must select complete. The CAP manager and program supervisor may unlock completed forms if an error is made by clicking Edit. This button is not available to you and will only show up if everyone, including the program supervisor and the supervising practitioner, have selected complete. Observations are just one of the 5 categories of evidence. Files related to the other categories can be uploaded to the platform via the Upload Evidence Files page. All roles, including the CM, PS, SP, and TC, can upload files. This includes, but is not limited to, the following examples of each category of evidence. Candidate artifacts, including lesson adaptations, student work, family collaboration or feedback, and reflection logs. Measures of student learning, such as raw or summarized exit tickets, assignments, or tests, and candidate reflections, such as those completed in the optional measure of student learning form. Student feedback, including raw or summarized student surveys or discussion notes, and the required candidate reflection form on student feedback. Additional observation forms from split practicum SPs or 5th observations, and the professional practice goals, of which the materials will vary based on the goal and benchmarks. You may also upload the optional finalized professional practice goal form if there's more information there than what is included in the platform itself. For some, there are limitations on the amount of data space and formats of files. The maximum amount of data space for each cycle is 100 megabytes. Once reached, additional files will not be able to be added. Formats allowed include Word documents, Excel files, PowerPoints, PDFs, images, music, and videos. To appear in the formative assessment and summative assessment, each file must be tagged to one or more categories of evidence and one or more essential elements. Once evidence has been uploaded, it will be viewable under Current Uploaded Evidence Files at the bottom of this Uploads page. Only tagged elements will appear in the formative and summative assessments. More on that next. The first half of the CAP cycle leads to the formative assessment. The expectations for this are described in detail within the CAP guidelines. The following slides focus on how to enter this information within the platform's layout. During the formative assessment, you and the program supervisor will review all collected evidence until this point in the practicum and work together to calibrate ratings for quality, scope, and consistency for each essential element. The screenshot on this page is intentionally small, so it captures all required fields for a single element. The same layout is repeated for each of the 7. Each begins with the proficiency descriptors for unsatisfactory, needs improvement, proficient, and exemplary. The language is specific to each element and should be reviewed separately before ratings for each. The evidence sources section will automatically populate with text entered in the synthesized evidence boxes from each observation that was conducted before this assessment is taking place, as well as links to uploaded evidence files tagged to the element. After reviewing this evidence, you and the program supervisor will choose ratings for quality, scope, and consistency from the drop-down menus. Finally, you will both need to click Save before moving on to the next element. Once ratings are complete for all 7 elements, you and the program supervisor will move on to the overarching feedback section. This section begins with a pre-populated table summarizing all ratings selected above. Supervisors will then consider the candidate's practice and share 1 or more areas of strength and 1 or more areas for growth. Each should include both evidence-based feedback and specific recommendations to support continued improvement. Supervisors must then click Save on this final section for the Complete button to appear. Like the observation forms, assessment forms will only be shared with the teacher candidate once both supervisors click Complete. The CAP manager and program supervisor can then unlock the completed assessment if an error is made. The CAP cycle culminates with the summative assessment. Like the formative assessment, each summative assessment starts with proficiency descriptors. It also includes all available evidence, including sources that were available at the point of the formative assessment and any sources added since. The rating section is expanded now to include a summary of where quality, scope, and consistency landed during the formative assessment, followed by a space to select updated ratings for the summative assessment, and select yes or no bubbles to indicate whether the readiness thresholds are met for the element. At this stage, quality must be proficient, while scope and consistency maybe needs improvement. If that is true, you can mark this as yes. Supervisors will then check off the categories of evidence used to support the ratings. It is important that these boxes align with what is available in the pre-populated observations and tagged evidence files. If something is missing, it was likely not tagged to the correct element or evidence category when uploaded. If needed, you can upload a new file and then tag this correctly so it shows up in the formative or summative assessment. Finally, supervisors will enter calibrated rationale for their ratings based on the full body of evidence and click Save. You'll want to click Save each time after each element to make sure no work is lost. As is outlined in detail within the 2024 CAP guidelines, supervisors are now required to ensure that the expectations on this slide are met. Each category of evidence must be used to support the rating for at least one essential element. The rating for each essential element must be supported by 2 categories of evidence. And for elements 1A1, 2A1, and 2B2, observations must be used as one category of evidence. It is important to note that the platform does not automatically check for this. In other words, there's no mechanism to indicate that a cycle cannot be closed if these expectations are not met. Supervisors must have their own systems in place to ensure these expectations are met before clicking Complete on the assessment. At the bottom of the form, you will see a pre-populated summary of ratings for each element. Supervisors will enter evidence-based feedback and a recommended professional practice goal. The final step is to determine whether the candidate is or is not ready to teach. To select ready to teach, all readiness thresholds must be met, and you must see the word yes in the final column of the table for each element. As with all other forms, the complete button will only appear once all required components of the form are finished. Both supervisors must select this button for it to be visible to the teacher candidate. If you're completing this form close to the summer, please make sure to select complete before leaving for vacation. There is no way for either the CAP manager or the program supervisor to overstep this if you do not take the step of selecting complete before heading out for vacation. The next few slides include a consolidated list of ways to troubleshoot frequent problems that arise. If you did not receive the email with your new username, your district may have a firewall that blocks the auto-generated email. If you do not see the email in your inbox or your spam folder, reach out to the CAP manager and ask for your CAP online platform username. If you did not receive the email with your new username, your district may have a firewall. Oops, I'm sorry, I just repeated that. If you logged in but do not see the candidate's information, you have likely logged in through your personal ELAR account and not the account affiliated with CAP. Again, reach out to the CAP manager to ask for your CAP online platform specific username. If you use the CAP specific credentials but are still having issues, log out and try clearing your web browser's cache, opening an incognito browser, or using another browser entirely. This will prevent your ELAR information from automatically populating when you try to log in. If the teacher candidate cannot write in the self-assessment, they likely did not click the complete button at the bottom of the rubric summary. Instruct them to go through, click through every element to ensure it is rated, and then click the complete button at the end. If the observation forms aren't showing up with the layout you expect, the program supervisor may have changed the form to a joint observation. Make sure to communicate before you make any further changes, as toggling back and forth between the versions of the form may cause a loss of information that is not recoverable. If information was entered and then disappears from an observation form, this could be for one of three reasons. The browser may have timed out while you were typing. Remember to save frequently as you are working. The program supervisor may have accidentally saved over your information in a calibrated box, or one of you may have toggled back and forth between the individual and joint versions of the form, resulting in data loss. In all of these cases, the information will need to be entered again. If the complete button is missing at the end of a form, you must confirm that all required components indicated with bold text and an asterisk have the information entered. On some forms, you might be the only one entering this. In others, it might be the responsibility of the teacher candidate or the program supervisor. If the CAP form status section says a form that you believe you finished is incomplete, first confirm that all required components are finished. If so, confirm that you have checked the complete box at the end of the form. If both supervisors are completing a form, both supervisors must check this box. As a reminder, it is very important to make sure that even if you have clicked this box but it says it is incomplete, to check with the program supervisor to ensure that they have done the same. That marks the end of this training. I know it was long, and I hope the information was helpful. I wish you success as you start new cycles for the coming academic year, and know that we're here to help you every step of the way.